One of the important components to make sure that you have when trying to win big in the music business is attractive assets. Part of your attractive assets are your professional photos. You need to have images that are going to be attractive, that people are going to want to engage with, they're going to want to like it, something that people want to see. And there's one thing that's going to make that come to life, and that's a professional photographer. So we have Dawn Kingston here, who's shot people from Annie LeBlanc to Baby Ariel to Jacob Sartorius, and she's worked with a lot of people that are doing well in the business and making music, also influencers, and she knows a thing or two about creating attractive assets. Thank you for being here, Dawn.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So the first thing I want to ask you, for those that are watching and want to know what are the first steps to doing creating these assets and taking pictures, is how does somebody get in touch with a professional photographer like yourself? Like, how would a new artist go about, man, I want to get a great photographer and not just use my iPhone all the time?
Of course. I mean, obvious answer to that would be social media and Instagram. As you're researching your artists and other artists that are coming up with you, seeing who they use, seeing people in your area that are interested in music specifically. That's kind of how I started. I was very, very passionate about music, so I only wanted to shoot artists, and there's a certain style to that. So just reaching out, DMing, asking to do collabs, stuff like that.
So when somebody, if I'm a new artist and I reach out to you, I got 600 followers. I reach out to you, I'm like, man, she's taking pictures of all these people. I would love for her to do my pictures. I don't have the money to pay her. She must cost a fortune, right? So how would I approach you and interest you enough to want to shoot somebody like me that's just starting out? I got my first record, I'm ready to go on social media with my song, but I don't have good pictures. All the pictures I've been taking myself look crappy. How do I convince you to want to work with me?
Well, I think the most important thing there is just to sell yourself to me. I mean, I'm used to working with these huge influencers, and some of these kids have toured the world 3 times over. So interest me and tell me who you are. Tell me why you're passionate about what you do. And then even offer to pay me a certain rate. It's always nice when someone offers to pay you. We work off paid work, obviously, but sometimes I do collaborate with the right people. So you just want to give a photographer the respect of, asking for rates first, say you'd be super interested in shooting sometime, because that can even start a relationship into building towards more of a collab.
Right, so if I don't have what your rate sheet requires, you're suggesting maybe I offer something less, or barter with you, or add some kind of value to you.
Exactly, maybe barter with me. Yeah, I mean, I really just think it's about selling your story and who you are as an artist that might interest me and what you're working on, and sharing your music with a photographer too, and be like, get me excited about it.
Right, so again, it goes back to adding value to somebody. So perhaps maybe if you do some research into the photographer and realize there's some things of interest to them or things that they want to do, maybe you have access to that you can share with them in turn to get some photos taken by that photographer.
Exactly.
Has that ever worked with you?
Yeah, there's definitely been artists that I super love their look or their style that I'm like, wow, that girl would take great pictures and be a great addition to my portfolio. So just having your style and your Instagram on point, even if they are just iPhone's photos to start, right. Just having that all on point and really a complete brand, because I just might love your look. That happens a lot. If someone has a killer look and they have no followers, I'm like, that's an interesting subject. I want to shoot them. Right,
so it's not always about money.
No, it's not always about money. No, right, so it's certainly talent too. What's your talent and what is your whole overall look? I've certainly shot people before for nothing that I'm like, this person's a star in my mind, and I want cool photos of them for my own portfolio.
So you're in luck. Like I've said before, it's not always about money. You got to master art, automatic resourceful thinking. Think about how you can get this photographer to shoot these pictures for you, even when you have no money. You just heard it right there.
And to be honest with you, just being consistent and following up. I've had kids really annoy me in the past, and to the point where I'm finally like, all right, let me look at this. What is this? And I ended up shooting them after that, because I'm like, wow, this kid is passionate. He's not leaving me alone. Right. He has the drive to really get this done, and that's when I end up working with someone. So don't give up.
Right, now, so a new artist calls you and wants to hire you. They do have some money. They do have the budget to pay you, right? Now, how can an artist be sure that you're the right photographer for them? What do they need to look out for? What questions do they need to ask? What kind of equipment do you have that they know, okay, this is somebody that's on the level I need? Yeah. What kind of questions should they be asking you as a photographer to be the suitable person to shoot their pictures?
Definitely starting out with equipment, like what kind of camera do you use, what lenses do you use. If you're looking for studio shots, like what studio are they working out of? Some photographers are really just natural light photographers. I started out in a studio. I like to do big production set stuff. So just asking even about like locations they have is a cool thing, because it'll give you the whole vibe of the shoot.
So now let's back up. So what is the standard kind of equipment, even bottom level professional photographer should have, that a new artist can say, okay, they got this, so I know they're legit?
Yes. Well, for sure, a DSLR camera, which means a camera that the lens comes on and off. That's a professional camera. Not everyone that has a DSLR camera is a great photographer, but that's a start. It's not just your iPhone. So I forget what the
No, it's just, I was just asking, what equipment should they make sure that you have so they can quantify you as being a professional photographer that's going to help them achieve the kind of photographs that they want to take?
Yeah.
So you said a DSL?
Just a DSLR camera, just one of those cameras that the lens comes on and off. They have multiple lenses for different looks. Definitely if you're a professional photographer, you need a professional camera.
What is something that someone that does work with you and you're taking their pictures, what is something or a tip you would give to an artist to not do with working with a photographer?
Definitely, especially if it's like a collab or you're just shooting for trade for tags, is not to hound that photographer for pictures the next day. Like, where are my pictures? Where are my pictures? We know you want your pictures. Especially if it's a collab and it's not paid work, it's gonna have to come on our time. Sometimes that takes a week or two. I like to give them as soon as possible, but you have to keep in mind that the photographer has other things going other than you. And if it's the right photographer, they will eventually get you their photos. Now, I have heard of photographers never giving photos, so you wanna look out for that. And just ask around the industry and people that have worked with this photographer, like, did you actually get photos out of it? Because it's also not fair for a photographer for you guys to agree to do a collab shoot and then a photographer never give you your photos, which does happen. And you have to kind of be prepared for that in growing your portfolio.
Is there an agreement that somebody should sign with the photographer?
Yeah, I mean, well, for collab work, that's hard because there's not really money being exchanged. But yeah, I mean.
But there's still an exchange.
Yes.
I'm going to do this in exchange for this. So have you in your career, or do you suggest other people getting some kind of agreement in place?
Yeah, you can do like a non-official agreement through email, even just for a collab. Like, I agree to tag the photographer in my post and vice versa. I'm going to tag the talent, and that is our form of payment.
Now, is there something that an artist who's coming up that's going to work with a photographer, looking for a photographer to work with, is there a certain style that they should kind of rely on you to be able to shoot them that's kind of the standard of what you're supposed to shoot when you're an artist? For instance, like when you're in school, you got the typical shot like that, you know what I'm saying? So is there something that, you know, the kind of standard, like you need this kind of shot if you're going to go to the market, that a photographer knows?
Yes, for sure. And that's one of the things that I started out doing when I started photography, is just promo shots, like super clean studio shots, white backgrounds, colorful clothing, just something to make you pop and stand out to different people who are looking at you. Everyone needs nice promo shots. You need Instagram-y stuff too, so like natural light and all that. But everyone needs some standard promo shots. It just shows your face, because as an artist coming out, I know everyone likes these obscure, like cool artsy photos that don't show your face, but it's very important as a new artist to show your face. So make sure
people need to know what they're liking.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like, who are you? You don't want to obscure a photo when you're first starting out. Make sure your face is showing. You can get artsy later, but until people know your face, can't.
Right, that's valuable information. Now, for someone that's just starting and they get in contact with a photographer gives them the rate sheet, they agree to work together. I'm a new artist. Do I pay you up front? Do I pay you afterwards? How does that work so that I don't get scammed by this photographer?
One thing to do is just, I will take half payment up front, half payment upon delivery of the photos. That's a safer way to do it, so then both people are guaranteed that, you know.
Now when you say up front, is that the day we shoot?
Yeah, the day you shoot or before. You know, everyone has Venmo or PayPal these days, like PayPal half first,
Right. But to protect themselves, is it okay to pay you when I actually see you in my face and we're shooting today?
Absolutely.
Because if I Venmo you, I might not see you again.
Yes, that's true. Make sure you meet the person first, because there's scam artists out there. I'm speaking not from a place of a scam artist, because I'm a legit, but you're right. You should definitely be meeting someone in person before you exchange any type of money.
Right. Now, creative anxiety. That's a real thing.
Yes.
Explain what creative anxiety means.
Creative anxiety is a real thing that I work with a lot of musicians and a lot of artists. And I have experienced myself, a lot of creatives, especially when they're first starting out, they start getting overwhelmed. Like there's been a point where I almost put down my camera because I was like getting some really big opportunities. I'm like, I can't handle this. This isn't me yet. I can't get there. But you have to push through that. And the only way you grow is to be uncomfortable. So even if you're in situations where you feel like you're not good enough, just showing up, showing your face and getting through it every time is so important, because creative anxiety can stop a lot of artists from even putting one foot out the door. So anxiety is a natural part of creating. So just keep that in mind when you feel it.
Originality.
Yes.
How many people come to you and want to do the same shot that you've done 16 times already? And as a photographer, is it your job to help them see that they don't need to do what everybody else is doing? Let's do something original. How often do artists come to you and just want to do what was done already?
A lot of the times. And I think that's okay to like draw inspiration from artists that already have their photos out there. But I always like to tweak it a little bit and really make it our own, because you don't want to just straight rip people off. A lot of art is that, and I think that there's something to be said for that, you know, but try to really push it to another level and make it your own.
How important is it for an artist to find a photographer that they gel with and keep their photos consistent?
Yes, you mean because a lot of the times you're working with different photographers, and like how do you keep your theme on an Instagram feed consistent?
Right.
One way obviously is to go to photographers that are shooting in the same style. Some photographers only shoot natural light, some photographers only shoot studio. I personally, when I'm working with bigger influencers, if they want to edit their photo to match their theme, I'm okay with them doing that. So many photographers are not. Never touch a photographer's edit unless you ask their permission first.
Right.
And it's nice when they ask me permission first. They're like, can I just put this filter on it? I'm like, yes, that's fine. If not, because you can really offend photographers by doing that, because that's their art and that's their style. But you can find people that are okay with you kind of messing around with it a little bit yourself.
Now, if you're an artist and let's say they work with you or another photographer and you did a barter, you didn't charge them any money. And in exchange for that, a photographer wants to put a watermark on that picture, but it's like really abrasive watermark that's like kind of takes away from the beauty of the picture.
Yeah.
How does an artist deal with that kind of photographer without insulting him or creating turmoil between the two?
You got to be really upfront about that. I think watermarks, I don't want to say they're a thing of the past, because it's a way to book more work. But if you see them using watermarks with other people anyways, they're going to use it, and you have to ask beforehand, because that might be another form of exchange or payment, is that they can watermark the photo. So just ask beforehand and make it very clear if you don't want a watermark, or if you do want a if they insist that you do, just have it be really small and subtle.
Right. So lastly, content, images, photos, incredibly important when trying to win big in the music business and scale your brand and get people familiar with you. Do you have any last minute advice? I don't know if it's last minute.
What is a piece of advice?
Yeah, totally.
3, 2.
So lastly, content, whether it's video, photos, artwork, very crucial for scaling your business and building your brand to win big in the music business, right? So what is a last piece of advice that you would give to an aspiring artist or a new artist or even an established artist who maybe doesn't have good creative, right? They don't have a good photographer. There's a lot of artists that put out great music, have some popularity, but you're like, they don't really have a good creative person doing their photos for them, right? What's a piece of advice you would give to them?
The number one piece of advice would just to keep your image consistent. And honestly, that comes down to having a great stylist and someone in charge of your wardrobe and look. That's huge. I mean, what you're wearing in a photo is a big piece of the photo. So what you're wearing, just make sure that that's consistent for your brand and what you're trying to put out there with music.
So stay on brand.
Stay on brand, 100%. And if you're going to go off brand, okay, but like you should have a creative in charge of your branding if you're not doing it consistently yourself.
We're also talking about people that might not have money.
True.
So they can't afford a stylist. So what are they going to do, Dawn?
True. They are going to emulate, and you can go to Forever 21 and buy some clothes. You know what I mean? You can
be your
emulate,
own stylist.
Be your own stylist, and you absolutely can be your own stylist. Just emulate artists that you like, tweak it to make it your own, and follow kind of a little bit of what they've done. The second piece of advice I have is just be super nice and polite to everyone you meet in this industry, because the second you're hard to work with or too picky or negative, that spreads, and people don't want to work with people like that. I've worked with some people that are not super talented, but like the nicest people I've ever met, and that makes me want to work with them again.
Right.
So be a nice person.
Right, and that supersedes the talent sometimes.
1,000%. Like,
Right.
I can't tell you how many talented kids I've met in this industry that are just not great to work with, and that word spreads around people, and people are like, oh, I just kind of want to stay away from that person. That comes down to music management too. Like,
Right.
if you're hard to work with, people are going to shy away from you. So be direct with what you want, but be super nice, and if it's not the right thing for you, move on, but do it in a professional, friendly way.
Right, so in conclusion,
Yes.
we're going to say be a good person,
Yes.
have gratitude, treat people well.
Super gratitude.
Don't think that money cannot get you a great photographer like Dawn, because look, it could be your talent, it could be your look, it could be something you can offer them in exchange to add value to them, and now they want to do your photos. Then building your network and a relationship with somebody like Dawn who wants to continue shooting, which now you can be consistent with putting out content.
100%.
Right? Mm-hmm. So Dawn Kingston, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Make
Thanks
sure
for
you
having
get your
me.
photos correct. Get familiar.
Always.